Hello, my name is Itzel Cervantes and I will be delivering a speech on Mahatma Gandhi. Imagine living in a world full of discrimination and segregation, not being able to ride the bus or ride the train comfortably without feeling dirty looks or being disrespected because of your ethnicity. It is totally unfair. Thanks to Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, a very well-known political figure who started a huge political movement on freedom, who was born on October 2nd of 1869 and was brutally murdered at the age of 79. He was recognized by his very peaceful protests. I'm going to be talking about who he is, how he became a political figure, and what he did as a political figure. Gandhi was born in Pobandar, India, during segregation and racism. He had came from a family of hard-working merchants who lived in London. He married at the age of 13. The age of 13, that is very young, and later had 4 kids. When he was only 16, his father became very ill and passed away a few months later. After that, he decided to go back to India to study law. His first job was in South Africa as a short-term lawyer, but then ended up working there for about 20 years. He lived life really good there. He was a rich lawyer and just lived life well with his family. Then one day he encountered a racial injustice that changed the way he viewed things. One day on a journey on a train to Pretoria, a white passenger objected his presence on the first class section and demanded to have him kicked out. He was furious and decided to stay and fight for equality in South Africa. Years later, when he went back to India, he came back a completely different man, a changed man. His views were different. He even began to dress differently. He started to wear a traditional Indian outfit called dhoti and left behind his suit and tie. He began to travel around the country to familiarize himself with all the social problems and injustices around his country. Every city he would go to, he would gather people and talk to them about injustice and independence and about human dignity. That is where he began to gain followers, and that is where he gained his name Mahatma, meaning great soul. And that was just the beginning of Mahatma Gandhi's journey as a political activist. Honestly, I can't imagine what all those people went through during these times of segregation and racism. And Gandhi believed that words and peaceful protests were powerful than using violence against violence. He got his community to oppose prejudice and racial injustice through peaceful protests and resistance. All Gandhi wanted was to send his message out without violence. He didn't want to attack the attacker, in this case the British, with equal violence. And sadly, that they were being rude and just not treating them good, because although he was using peaceful protests, they arrested him 6 times, and altogether he did time in prison, about 4 years, which is a lot. And in 1930, he organized a protest that called the Sea March, that they were going to protest against the British tax law. They were taxing their salt, so he organized a movement to march 23 days, 241 miles altogether, to the ocean to gather salt. And once they got there, the British began to arrest them. And that says a lot about the injustice going around at that time. He was arrested 2 years after that. But once he came out, he continued his peaceful protests. And in August 15 of 1947, India finally gained their independence. But sadly, 6 months after, he was brutally murdered and shot 3 times in the chest. This political figure sacrificed his life for the freedom of his country. In conclusion, Mahatma Gandhi was a legendary political activist whose protest techniques and wise word protests inspired other people such as Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. These men also used peaceful protests for racial justice. Without Mahatma Gandhi, the Indian population never would have gained the freedom they deserved. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.